Hi everybody. I hope you are doing well. Very welcome to my new video. I have prepared this video in order to ask you, is it possible shortening the half-life of isotopes? And in order for giving my answer, yes, it is possible. I will present two experiments with isotopes gallium-40 and cesium-137. Let us start with gallium-40. The gallium-40 is one of the components of the gallium hydroxide. Its dose rate is around 25-30 microsieverts per hour. So I prepared three samples from the gallium hydroxide. You see them on this picture. The initial activity of the samples before the treatment was measured by an adequate laboratory. I treated the samples with a device, a set of electromagnets, specially wired and connected with power of 30 watt at 12 volts. After the treatment, the control measures were made within the same laboratory. The three diagrams you see now show the initial activities of the three samples and their activities after the treatment. Each sample was measured three times. Three samples measured three times means 9 control measures. And all of them, as you see, are with reduced values of radioactivity. I summarized the results in a diagram derived on a single sample. As you see, the initial activities were reduced by 10-12%. The results, I have to say, were taken by the laboratory with surprise. Okay, they say, but this rather thin isotope, it would make sense to repeat the experiment with a stronger one. And the laboratory was so kind and prepared 5 samples of cesium 137 for me. I made the treatment of the cesium 137 with the same device, but the power this time was 500 watt and the voltage was 120 volts. And I myself made the initial and also the control measures. But in this case, the dose rates were measured. The point is that the change in the dose rates should reflect the change of the activities as well, because the samples were closed hermetically and the mass was not changed. The initial dose rate of the samples was around 0.25 microsievert per hour. Therefore, to measure any change was not just difficult, but in fact impossible, because all measurements included the dose rates of the background radiation as well. And the background radiation varied between 0.60 and 0.19 microsievert per hour, sometimes even more. So the surplus of the isotopes was around 1/3 of the value of the background radiation. So do we want it or not, the background radiation was dominating the measured data. Therefore, I was focusing on the change of the surplus of the isotopes above the background radiation. And I always measured the background radiation in parallel and separately. Please take a look at the diagram of the results. You please be not scared of the scale of the data. These are the values of the surplus and were calculated from the measured data. I measured the five samples together that increased the measured dosage after the background was deducted with a certain way, and the resulting surplus was applied to a single sample. Expressing the result in percentages, the reduction was 63%. The 63% decrease means the half-life came down to 37% of the original one. There were obviously inaccuracies during the measurements, plus and minus, but there was a large number, close to 1,000 of measurements, which quasi-equalized and balanced the data. For eliminating the fast data leaks, the values of the dose rates of the samples and also the background were always measured for 2 hours long. And the recorded dose rate was derived from the 2 hours accumulated dose load. The decline was exponential. The convergence of the columns is obvious. Now, a very short introduction about what and why. The academic physics defines all elementary particles with lifetime. But if all elementary components differ with lifetime, they should certainly be processes. There is no difference. It's of the magnitude of 10 on the plus 36 years or 10 on the minus 29 seconds, call with them a stable or impulse. There is no difference. The principle is the same. They are processes. And once all components are processes, it should mean the element itself is a process, elementary process. And processes might be speeded up and slowed down. The elementary process of the periodic table, the processes are balanced, all of them, on their own ways. If this balance is broken, a result of external impacts or other reasons, the elementary process becomes damaged. As we call this status, becomes isotope. The elementary process starts its own self-rehabilitation order for coming back to its balanced status, which process needs obviously time. The half-life, as definition, is coming from this self-rehabilitation duration. I don't change the nucleus, and the treatment does not modify the elementary structure, just assists in this self-rehabilitation program, speeds it up for reaching to balance as soon as possible. You see the device here on the screen with the Caesar samples placed inside. The device is a specific set of electromagnets connected and wired in a certain way, generating a conflict of electromagnetic waves. And this conflict is the one which speeds up the rehabilitation. I present the generating conflict through its mechanical effect in the inserted videos. Switching the impact on and off makes the conflict stronger, and the impact becomes even stronger if two electromagnets placed oppositely. The device is focusing the impact by 5 electromagnets. I made the treatment with direct current, but it worked with alternate current the same way. Summarizing the results, the treatment of the Ca-40, Calcium-40, and the Cesium-137 give strong arguments for carrying out a large-scale experiment. I cannot do it as I don't have the necessary isotope and the necessary environment. A large-scale experiment needs, however, nothing more, just will and decision. This is all I wanted to discuss with you. Thanks for watching. Take care and see you next time.